Okay, let's do number 26 from the practice book from lesson 10.7. This is the one that is about eggs. It says, for the period 1997 to 2003, the number of eggs y in billions produced in the United States can be modeled by the function y equals negative 0.27x squared plus 3.3x plus 77, where x is the number of years since 1997. A says to write and solve an equation that you can use to approximate the years in which 80 billion eggs were produced, and B asks you to check the reasonableness of your answers. So let's start with A. Let's see, we need to write an equation where 80 billion eggs were produced. So we'll start with 80 as our y value, okay? And then I'm going to use the rest of the formula, which is negative 0.27x squared plus 3.3x plus 77. Okay, and of course we're going to solve this using the quadratic formula as well. And in order for us to know what A, B, and C are, we need to set it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 80 on both sides. We end up with 0 equals negative 0.27x squared plus 3.3x minus 3. Okay? Now we know what A, B, and C are. Let's plug it into the quadratic formula. X equals negative B, so it's going to be negative 3.3 plus or minus square root b squared, so it'll be 3.3 squared minus 4 times a, which is negative 0.27 times c, which is negative 3. So we have negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, all that over 2 times a. Now this is the kind of problem that can be tricky for some people because of the number of decimals we have here and also all the negatives in there. So we need to be really careful to pay close attention to everything you write down. So the first thing you want to do is figure out what's underneath this radical symbol. 3.3 squared is 10.98. I'm sorry, 10.89. 3.3 squared is 10.89. And then negative 4 times negative 0.27 times negative 3, when you multiply all those together, it comes out to negative 3.24. Okay, what we want to do is take 10.89 minus 3.24. We get 7.65. So this radical, underneath this radical is a 7.65. So this is x equals negative 3.3 plus or minus square root. We haven't done anything with that square root. It's still there. And it's 7.65 over 2 times negative 0.27, which is negative 0.54. Okay? And then we want to do the next step, which is to figure out what the square root of 7.65 is. It is 2.77 if I round it. And so I'm going to have negative 3.3 plus or minus 2.77 divided by negative 0.54. So we have two possible answers here, remember. Let's figure out what our two possible answers are. First, let's do negative 3.3 plus 2.77 and divide it by negative 0.54. So negative 3.3 plus 2.77, and that equals negative 0.53. Divide that by negative 0.54, and one possibility is x equals 0.98, or about 0.98, okay? The second possibility is going to be if we take negative 3.3 and subtract 2.77, it'll give us a negative number. We'll divide it by negative 0.54, and our second possibility is about 11.2. Okay, so we have two possible answers here for our x value, which means two possible answers for the number of years since 1997. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these numbers and I'm going to round them first of all, and then I'm going to think about how likely each of these is to be an answer to our problem. Well, this one is about 1, and this one is about 11. So I'm looking back at the problem and I can see that the date range they give us is from 1997 to 2003. Well, if I used x equals 1, it would give me an answer of 1998, which is within the date range. If I use the answer of 11, it'll give me an answer of 2008, 2008 is not in the date range that they gave us. So this is not one of our answers because it doesn't have to do with the question that they're asking us. So we're going to use 1 as our answer for how many years. As far as the answer to the whole question is concerned, we'll use 1998. Okay? Part B asks us to determine whether this is a plausible answer. It says, check the reasonableness of your answer in Part A by substituting it back into the equation. So what we're going to do is I'm going to erase most of this stuff, all my quadratic equation stuff, and we're going to take our answer, which was x equals 1, or about 1, and plug it back in up here. Okay, you can either plug it into this original one or to that one. They mean the same thing. They're equivalent equations. 0 equals negative 0.27 times 1 squared, well, that's just 1, plus 3.3 times, again, 1, and minus 3. So let's estimate here. Here we're going to end up with negative 3 and negative 0.27. We're combining all these, and I see 2 negatives. I'm going to combine those 2 first. And when you combine this and this by adding them, the values together, you end up with negative 3.27, and we still have a 3.3. Negative 3.27 plus 3.3 is going to be 0.03. Okay? Now, I know this is not equivalent. 0 does not equal 0.03. But we can say that since we were estimating that 0 and 0.03 are close together, which means that this is a reasonable answer. We're not looking for the exact decimal, we're looking for an estimate. And as far as an estimate is concerned, this one worked out well. So here are your answers for Part A and B from number 26.